Hello everyone, this is Troy from Dashcam Owners Australia bringing you another dashcam review. Today we're going to be having a look at the Parkmate Kapture KPT 780. The 780 is a full high definition GPS enabled camera. I'll put a link in the description to their website. This camera is also available from a number of retail stores. Now I'll start by taking a look at everything that comes included with this product out of the box. Starting at the top left we have our car charger, then moving to the right we have our USB cable for connecting the camera to a PC. We have one of the supplied mounts, that is the suction cup mount. Then the camera itself. Moving to the bottom left we have our user manual. Then in the middle there we have our GPS module. At the bottom underneath the GPS module we have our other mount, which is the 3M double-sided tape mount. And the disc is our playback software. Now we'll take a brief tour around the camera itself. As you can see, here's the front-on view of the camera, and this shot is without either of the supplied mounts connected. Now we'll take a look at the back of the camera, and as we can see we have our control buttons there, with a 2.7-inch screen for playback of videos and adjusting the menus. Now we'll take a look at the side of the camera. On this side all we have is our power input for the camera. As you can see, there's still no mount connected. Just at the top there is where the mount will slide in. Now what you're seeing here is where the GPS module actually plugs in on this, and I'll give you another shot of that in a moment. And here you see the camera with the supplied suction cup mount. This is what I used for the purpose of testing. Now here is a shot with the GPS module connected to the back there. As you can see, it does make it look quite chunky, but mounted in the car you'll see that it does not actually take up too much room. And now we'll take a quick look through the menu section of this camera. And here's just your generic recording screen when the camera is recording. That's everything that's going to be displaying. Now we'll start off going through the menus, and our first menu option is the video menu, which has the following options. Starting off we have our video resolution options, which is 1080p at 30 frames per second and 720p at 30 frames per second. I'm using 1080p for all my footage in this review. Our photo sizes, we have 0.9 of a megapixel, 2 megapixel, 3 megapixel, and 3.7 megapixel. The loop video settings, we have loop off, 1 minute loops, 3 minute loops, and 5 minute loops. And motion detection, we have an off and on. And sensor flip, off and on. This allows you to mount the camera upside down and will flip the menu and the image recorded. Now our second set of menu options is the effects menu. We have our flicker options, which is at 50Hz or 60Hz. Our auto exposure options, so we have auto, landscape, portrait, sports and night. Our ISO options, which are auto, 100, 200 and 400. And our white balance, which is auto, sunny, cloudy, fluorescent and incandescent. And for the record, for this review I have left everything set at its factory defaults. Now the second set of effects options, we have our sharpness options, which are standard, hard and soft. Our auto exposure bias, which goes from -2 up to +2. Also our quality options are superfine, fine and normal. Now we'll move on to our final set of menu options, which is the camera setup options. Now starting with our auto power off options, we have a choice of off, 1 minute, 3 minute and 5 minutes. The screen power off we can set to permanently off, 30 seconds, 1 minute or 3 minutes. And we have our time setup options for setting the time and our time zones. And date and time for turning the timestamp on or off. Now in the next menu we have our velocity stamp, which we can turn on or off, the GPS stamp, which we can also turn on or off. Same goes for driver number, and then you can set your driver number in that last one there. I had mine set to DCOA, which we'll see when I play back footage. Moving on to our next lot of options, as you can see we can set the sensitivity for each axis on the G sensor, and the supply light, which turns on the row of LEDs along the front of the camera. Only really useful if you're going to remove the camera from the car to, say, record some damage if you've been in an accident at night. Moving on again to the next set of menu options, we have our key light. Now this will illuminate the keys and buttons on the camera so you can change the settings at night. It is actually quite a nice little feature that we have our beep sound for when you're pressing buttons, high, low and off. We can choose the outer card and the inner card. I've been using the outer card, 32GB Class 10 memory card for this review. And for our language options, we have English, Russian, Czech, Polish and Chinese. And now for our final set of menu options here, we have our default settings, so this will reset the camera to its default settings. We can format the memory card and our firmware version, which I will show you here. And here we have the camera mounted in my car. As you can see, despite its larger size, it can still fit quite nicely on the opposite side of my mirror, so it's out of my way and I don't have to notice it too much. Now we can start to take a look at some of the footage from this camera, and as always, I must warn that due to the nature of YouTube, it can adversely affect the quality of this video. Alright, here we are, mid-morning, coming up to the Sydney Harbour Bridge. As you can see, we've got all our detail up in the top left corner there with our speed from the GPS, as well as the driver's stamp there. Now, just as we're coming onto the bridge, it should give you a bit of a rough idea on the quality here. A lot of the surrounding cars and illuminated signs to give you an idea of the sharpness. And we have just gone from one clip to the next clip without any interruption whatsoever, so this camera does have seamless recording, which means there is no gap between video files created. And here we are about 4:30 in the afternoon. As you can see, sun's starting to go down, a bit of cloud cover, so it's a bit darker than the last clip. As you can see, the camera still does a very nice job, if not even better job, in a bit of low light here. Can clearly make out all the signage and car registration plates. What I'll do now is I'll move over to some proper night footage to give you an idea of what the camera is like at night. Now here we are with some proper nighttime footage. Fairly well lit street, lots of cars and traffic about, so there's still a lot of light in the shot for the camera to use. But as you can see, the quality has dropped a little bit. It is a bit grainier with proper nighttime footage, but you can still make out those license plates of the vehicles around us and a bit of detail around. So overall, it's not the worst I've seen at night, but it's not the best I've seen at night either. I'll now cut to the in-camera audio, so I'll stop talking for a moment so you can hear what the actual microphone in this camera is like. So now I'll just take the opportunity to say a few words and give you an idea what the microphone on this camera is like. So hopefully I'm coming through nice and clearly. And there you have it, the actual in-camera audio is very reasonable on this model. Now as you can see, this is a slightly darker street with no real street lamps, just it's mainly the lighting from the stores. So it has gone a little bit grainy with this nighttime footage, but overall it still gets the job done quite nicely. Now I'm just going to move towards the supplied software with this camera, so you can have a look at what that's like, and then I'll give you a general overview and thoughts on this model. Here we have a screenshot of the supplied software with this camera. As you can see, we have our viewing area, and off to the right we have our map plotting software, which will plot your route that you took. Down the bottom we also have our G-sensor graph and our speedometer there. And along the very bottom of the screenshot we have our files there. As you might be able to make out, a few of my GPS files were showing up as unavailable. I found this was probably due to my mounting of the camera being a bit too high on the windscreen. Now the things I like about this particular camera is that it was very easy to use and set up, and the included manual was actually very well written. It's got decent video and audio quality, GPS enabled out of the box, and the included software actually does a very good job. And as always, there's a few things I thought this camera could have done better, one of them being the nighttime footage. It was a little bit grainy, could have been a bit better, but it still gets the job done. And as I did briefly touch on, the GPS reception, that can be an issue I found depending on where you mounted it. I had to mount it a little bit lower to get better reception on my model. But apart from that, I felt this camera did a very reasonable job all around. I hope you enjoyed this review, and thanks for watching.